somebody had hit me up, was like, somebody hit me up, was like, hey, are you getting a Riffin with Griffin today? And I was like, I'm not sure if I wanted to do a Riffin with Griffin today, like a regular episode, you know what I mean? But, it is what it is. So I decided, let me just do a bonus episode today, and tomorrow we will have our regularly scheduled Riffin with Griffin, episode 328. But for now, this is a bonus episode, just because of what's happened today. Unless you're living under a rock or you didn't hear, but the terrible news today is that the conservative activist Charlie Kirk was assassinated at a Utah college, I believe it was. Where was he? Yeah, he was speaking in Utah University, in Utah of all places too. Utah University, and he was tragically assassinated. And I personally got an issue with how this is going to be politicized. I mean, I'm not a news anchor. I do have a podcast. I mean, this is my little podcast, and it's like, do I talk about this? Does it matter what I think about this to my small podcast audience? Maybe, maybe not, but I did feel the need to come on. I'm not monetizing this episode. I've talked about it in the past where it's like, I feel like you don't know what people think, what they really think, what they really believe, what's really going on, I don't know. Wait, hold up, guys. You know what? Yeah. So, man, I just realized I had this because I'm not used to doing this. This is like private right now. I gotta make this. You know what? God damn it. We gotta start again. What are we doing? I don't even know how to do this. Wait, let's see. Details. Oh, I have it on private. God damn it. Public. Here we go. Yeah, so sorry. All the nonsense. I think you're going to see all that I just did, and the audio people are listening right now. The audio, you got this whole thing. But the people that just... Yeah. I just went live. I didn't go live with it on. It was private for some reason, but we just made it public. We just made it public, so if you're just joining us again, special episode of Riffin with Griffin, bonus content. Regularly scheduled episode will be tomorrow. I will do Riffin with Griffin episode 328. But I just thought, you know what? Let me come on here and give my thoughts about it because I know people are going to ask about it on the podcast. Like I said, again, I'm not a news anchor or anything like that. I'm just a comedian podcaster. I like to be thoughtful. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, who am I to even say anything? My biggest issue, I'm not monetizing this episode. It's not even really an episode. It's just I said, let me go live. I have a platform. Let me go live. My biggest issue is immediately. Well, first of all, let's say this. If you haven't heard already, I'll say it again. Charlie Kirk, conservative activist, young guy, 31 years old, was tragically assassinated, murdered at the Utah Valley University when he was doing a public appearance, And so, and that's all we know. That's all we know right now. They've interviewed a couple of suspects, and they really released those people already, and now the shooter is at large. I mean, for me, when these kind of things happen, I just gotta say this first of all, just about what's happening so far and what are they doing and how are they handling this. Well, first of all, I find it crazy that they haven't found this person because where was the guy? I don't know if they've given any information about was it a long range weapon? Was it what kind of gun was it? How many shots were there? I don't know. I didn't read into it too much about the details. And then they got these terrible videos online right now. Hopefully they take all those down of the actual thing. You don't want to see that, But so I don't know. I mean, but how does no one's found this person yet? There were no witnesses. You're sitting in a crowd and somebody shoots and you look over it. The person put the gun away right away. Someone had to have seen something. So I'm just surprised that they don't have somebody already in these kind of situations. I mean, this is some movie stuff, man. This is the kind of thing you see in a movie. Somebody gets killed, and it's like, some then the main actor who's the assassin gets away because he's in a bell tower 750 yards away or something. But normally, like in real life, these people get found and they're dead on the scene. Like, it's very rare that like someone's taken into custody. It doesn't. If you really, I should look up the stats, but it's just in my knowledge, I just remember always like somebody tries to assassinate the president, person dead on the scene. There's some school shooter dead on the scene. You know what I mean? The one time it wasn't that was the Boston Marathon. Remember that Boston Marathon guy? I was flabbergasted that guy, that they caught him alive. I was like, wow. But that's just because of the history of it, right? So I don't know what's going on in terms of that. Hopefully they find this person, and it's pretty terrible. Yeah, man. And it was just one shot, somebody said. Okay, I'm looking at my chat right now. My chat's getting me up to date. So it was one shot. So, like, where was this? Like, no one saw, heard, seen anything? So, okay, so we'll see about what's going on with that. Now, here's my thoughts on this whole thing, so just so you know. So, my first thing is, like, it's hard to be. I was on Instagram as this was going on, and instantly the influencers are already going at it. You know what I mean? Already going at it. Yeah, shout out to 50 Cent, because I thought he said the best thing. He said, I don't know, but all I know is people need to shut the fuck up. And I agree with that. Maybe even me. Maybe I shouldn't even be doing this. But the people that are just out there, especially like, leftist type people, I guess, is the best way to, they're already pouncing, Charlie Kirk, man. The guy was young, 31 years old, Republican activist, right wing, reaching to the young people of the Republican Party, trying to change it, was probably very influential in getting Donald Trump nominated, the election win. Love him or hate him, he is who he was. He was a smart guy. He was a charismatic guy. And he was a shit starter, okay? The things I know of him, it would always be like some public debate with, people. Just random people would be able to come up to the mic and start talking to him, and he would like go back at them. That's the things I know of him. I don't follow politics like that where I would know these sort of fringe people, But apparently, as I was looking at it today, I was like, oh wow, okay, this guy was, in the weeds there. I don't always agree with. Here's the thing. Regardless of what he was talking about, I didn't necessarily agree with how he said his message. I mean, to me, a lot of times he was very, he's a smug guy. But that's how you stick it to the other side, though, by the way. So I think he knew that. So he was a very smart, savvy guy, and I think he always knew exactly what he was doing. And he had a lot of thoughts about LGBT, about guns, too. Like, the thing that people are putting out there a lot are his feelings on guns. He was very much about the Second Amendment, and even if people would die, he had a lot of thoughts out there about, like, well, hey, this is a part of it, and and people are putting that out there, and I don't like that. Because it actually doesn't make your point. If you're on the left, let's say you're a left person, and you look at that message he said, and you go, well, see, this is why we need gun control. Even that guy died. Okay, so that's the point you're making. On the other side, it just reinforces his point. Like, if he had his dying breath, and if he would have said, I still want guns, I mean, it would prove his point. Like, he's living what he said, or not living, I don't know if he would have changed his tune. I mean, hopefully he's thinking about his family and it'd be a different thing. But if he was an activist, true to the end, I think it doesn't necessarily prove the point of showing some of his thoughts about guns per se. Listen, no matter what you think, no matter what you feel about your politics and what's going on, this is not what our democracy is supposed to be about. No one should lose their life in this way, especially for their beliefs. And we don't even know that that's what happened. That's why I'm so shocked they don't have somebody in custody. Because what are you looking for? No matter what side of the aisle you're on, okay, they find this guy and what if they find out the guy's a Trump supporter? What are people going to say then? What if they find out, even if they find out he's some left-wing Antifa, whatever type of person that's trying to, what if they find that out, Then what? What does that mean? I mean, the whole thing's horrible is my point. It's all terrible. This is all terrible. No one should lose their life just because of their political beliefs, no matter what they are. If you truly believe in freedom of speech, I mean, the world's upside down right now in terms of when I was a kid, in terms of what people fought for. Like, the people that truly fought for free speech, okay? The people that fought for free speech, they had to defend the people like David Duke and the Klan and racists who were not being violent, If someone was just speaking on what they felt about race relations in a calm, respectful, quote unquote, respectful way, if you believe in the freedom of speech, then you have to fight for that. Neither side should be able to take some moral high ground as if what they think and what they say is the right way. This is terrible because you can't have this be the way we do politics. This can't be the way. They need to find this person and swift justice needs to happen. Because we wouldn't want this on any side. It's like if you look at what's happened right now. So now I looked this up. I was just curious. It's like, did anybody shoot at Obama? Did anybody shoot at him? No one actually shot at Obama, but they did stop a plot of people were trying to do something in the beginning. And then they stopped him, they arrested him, but nobody shot at the guy, right? I mean, if you believe in right, left, and politics, and you think that the right is racist, and you think that, it's like, you would think that would have been the number one target. But I just think that it's not what you think. It's not always what you think, So if you're just looking at it like that, you go, okay, well, how come these like right-wing nuts that they say, how come they didn't try to assassinate every like liberal activist out there? It never happened like that. It just seems like, why is it the other side? So that's what I'm saying. The whole face of it looks terrible. That's why I don't know you don't know what's what. Okay, that's the thing too. You don't know what's what. You know what I mean? You don't know what's what right now. We don't know what the motives for this were because, listen, motives could be anything if you really think about it. I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but I'm a big movie guy. This reminds me of Star Trek. If you're thinking about conspiracies, I'm saying there was that one where, the old school Klingon people and the old school Federation people, they actually had a plot. They didn't like that there was going to be peace. And then they did this plot to make sure, it could be something like that. Because the thing about Charlie Kirk, too, he was new. I mean, he was a new type of Republican. Even if some of his like beliefs, the strong beliefs he had and things you might disagree with, I mean, he was still reaching young people in a way, and he was going to be like the new voice. And I could see people in that party being like, I don't like that guy. And then on the other side, obviously, it's like, here's this voice doing what I'm saying. He's like gathering young people. You would think young people would be the ones that would not vote for what's his face, but they did. So what now? So who knows what the motives are. So I hope they find this person right away because leaving it out for the internet is terrible. Because it just, everything boils down to like, oh, look at the leftists. The left people are doing this. Look what they did. And then, you know what I'm saying? It just turns into this horrible. I was looking at Sean Hannity before I came in here. It's the whole reason why I wanted to do this in the first place. Because I was like, oh, wow, they're really playing it up. They're really making it like, about like, this is some lone liberal nutbag who, got a gun and shot the guy. It could be, but it's like, they don't know. And they're saying, all the stuff that people are saying. But look, guys, I just think that this is a terrible, terrible thing. And we can't nobody should be okay with this. No side should be okay with this. You just can't. You cannot be okay with this. This guy lost his life. He's got 2 kids, I believe. Somebody lost a father today. Their lives are going to be, ruined forever. This is not something you celebrate. It's something that, we should be discussing things about like, hey, let's, like, the gun control issue, why don't they? This should be a reason to not fight more, but to be like, hey, why don't we come together and like figure these things out? There's so much more nuance to stuff like this than is put out on the internet. You know, it's like what? Like, why is it lethal force? You know, why is lethal force? Like when you say, you know, the Second Amendment a right to bear arms. Well, why can't? Where's the technology? We live in it. We have AI, but we don't have non-lethal weapons. Why does it have to be guns? Why does it have to be the same technology that we've had for 500 years? Or however, whenever the first gun was made and they're shooting metal at someone, why is that the only weapon that is available? If you make different types of weapons, then therefore you could be like, okay, so these are now the arms you can use. You may not use a lethal weapon because now we have these other weapons. Why aren't they making those? Why aren't we talking about that stuff? It always has to be a fight about guns. The Second Amendment is not about guns. It's about bearing arms to protect yourself. Then why don't we improve and advance the way we protect ourselves? Why does it have to be guns, right? I'm just saying, I think the two sides can talk about this in a different way. To me, the freaking gun companies are the ones laughing at us. The people making millions and billions of dollars off selling weapons and arms, they're like, yeah, let these idiots fight, make it a left-right issue, and then we'll still, you know what I mean? It's crazy. You know, it's like a weird thought. You know what I mean? It's not the same argument. I see somebody say, like, should you ban cars and trucks? You know, it's like, you know, you don't, that's not the same thing. You know, they're not made for that. You know, you have a purpose for a car and a truck. It's for transportation and hauling things. And then, yes, people can die, but look what you have to do to even get a car or a truck. You got to have a license. You got to take a test, and you have to, like, you know, there's rules you have to follow, and you don't follow those rules, you immediately go to jail. You know what I mean? There's no thought process in that. You know, you hit somebody with your car, they go, it's either manslaughter or it's first-degree murder or it's second-degree murder. I mean, immediately, with the guns, you're talking about, somebody's in your house and you shoot them. It depends on the state you're in. It depends on, like, hey, do they have a gun? There's so many different states that have different laws about guns. But anyways, my point is this. I don't want to make it about that. People shouldn't make it about that. I just think that we're not. Hopefully, a open discussion can happen between the sides, people that disagree, so they can come together and make some real change. But everything is so polarizing right now. You don't have to agree with Charlie Kirk and his beliefs and how he went about it, but I do not agree with this. And I really hate how so many people are now going to use this on their social media platforms for engagement. Not all of them, but it sucks that you're in with those people, So maybe there are some real activists out there. There are some people that have a lot of good things to say, and they're in your algorithm. The sad part is that algorithm gets mixed in with the algorithm of people who are just trying to incite violence, the people that are trying to just sell negativity so they can get likes and shares and all that stuff. It sucks that they're put together, it'd be like you're going to see an action movie and there's a porno preview. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to see Avengers, and it's like white holes, black poles. And then they go, wait a minute, this is not what I want. But that's how it works on the internet. There's you can't discern the difference between somebody who is like really trying to fight for change or has a voice that you believe in versus these people who are just like saying shit, I don't know. Somebody said, hopefully there isn't retaliation. I mean, when is there ever retaliation? The guy that he supports and helped put in office was shot at. There was no retaliation. That's the realness of the world. We're not really like that. See, the reason why this stands out is because this is not who we really are. Nobody really wants this. It's like now you take away the fight. Now people open their eyes and they go, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? Nobody could come out and be like, hey, this was a good thing. This was not a good thing. And if you see people saying that this was a good thing, man, that's something. There's something rotten in that person's soul right there. Especially today, too, of all days, too. Some of the stuff people are saying, I'm like, have some empathy, man. This gives a guy who had a family. You're just going to go out and just trash the guy because you didn't believe in him? Believe in the things he was saying? I don't know. This did not happen because of what he believed or not believed, because of what he said or didn't say. This happened because a coward doesn't have the courage that this guy had to speak his mind publicly, to say what he had to say, to go to one of his debates and challenge him face to face and be like, I don't like what you said, and make your point and then see what the guy has to say then. No, you want to be like far away and shoot the guy? I mean, that's terrible. That's terrible. And no one should be saying at all in any way, shape, or form that this guy got what he deserved. That kind of thought process is going to tear us apart. It's going to tear us apart. And we have to, in times like this, is when we need to come together. That's what we need to do. Come together as a nation. We need to put all the bullshit aside. You have a liberal friend, you have a conservative friend, and you got whatever. You got to put all that aside and look at each other and be like, whoa, I would not want this to happen to you because I disagree with you. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. And now we won't know for a while. Who knows what's going to happen? Now the news outlets are going to be using, like MSNBC already had to apologize for what they were saying. It's like, who are they speaking to? Like, you don't want to be a news outlet and come on and just being like, well, the comeuppance of the Republican Party, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? What are you talking about, Everybody has something of value to say, whether you disagree with it or not. And I think that what people didn't like about this guy is he had a way of saying his beliefs that, would get people tongue-tied, so then it turns into like name calling, So when he got finished, it just turned into like, well, you're evil or you're a fascist, you're this. And the guy's like, no, I'm a family man. I don't like this. I think this is wrong. I think this way, that way, and people just disagreed with, you could just disagree. And you just go, okay, boom. You really want to make a difference? Rally your neighborhoods. Rally your for voting. It's like the internet's not a real place. It does not affect real life in the way people think it does. It doesn't. If you want to make change, you got to get out there. Like these congressmen or your local representatives, get out there. That's how you make change, or at least make that effort. Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm looking at your questions, and what I should do here is like if people have like thoughts about what I'm saying, you know what I mean. I have a little Q&A I'll put up there. You know what I mean? So I'll just put this here. I'm just going to say questions, just in case anybody, it's like people say like, this guy said that the JFK, he's like, hey, is there, you think there was, he probably was. I mean, I wasn't alive, but if you think about it, you look at if you look at the JFK assassination, like we may never know who did it and why and what the conspiracy it really is, but you look at that and you go, well, this had to be something. Right? It had to be something with the magic bullet or however that happened. And then like that guy dies. The guy that killed him dies. It's like something happened, and that was terrible. That's a terrible thing that we're still scarred by. Anytime somebody dies like that, we're still scarred by it, man. So yeah, it's crazy. I would hope that, not that I hope, I'm going to tell you what I believe. Well, let me answer this question first. Somebody said, do you think this is a JFK level event? No, I do not. But the internet may make it seem as if that is. But if I know the news cycle the way I know it, I think that sadly in a week, this is going to be something else. And this will be done. It won't have the same. It's kind of like, when there's like a hurricane someplace and, 10,000 people are lost in a hurricane and we're like, oh my God, and we're sending money. And then like a week later, we're like, what happened? What? Oh yeah, that's right. There was that hurricane. I hope everybody's okay. Nobody cares. That's just the nature of this. So I think right now, I think they need to move swiftly. I think that they need to find this person, whoever did this, and get as much information out there about this person as they can so we know what the hell's going on. You know what I mean? They just caught that 13-year-old kid in, where was it? In Washington. They caught him. He was prepared to go do a school shooting. He was prepared for it. And they caught him beforehand. They stopped him, right? So it's like, then you go, well, what's going on with this kid? Like, what happened? What's going on with these parents? What's going on, It makes me think about that, being a parent now. I'm like, God damn, do I not know my kid? And all of a sudden, my kid is like, wants to do that. So I just think they need to move. They need to act and move swiftly. Someone said, how will this affect comedians? Man, it just depends on, you can make anything funny, honestly. Not that you're making fun of this guy's death, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and talk about freedom of speech and then, say you shouldn't. I mean, it might be crass. It might be, you know what I mean? Rude, no empathy in it. But I think that there'll be some humor to be found someplace. I'm not going to chastise it or commend it. I'm just saying, I just know the nature of the comedy business. But yeah, the main point, again, so I see somebody in chat here also saying, is like, the main point is like, people should be allowed to express their opinions as long as those opinions don't lead to people being hurt. People's feelings are going to get hurt. But sorry, that's what it is. That's what our country's about, Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of thoughts. You don't have to like the thoughts, but you should be allowed to say them, and I should be allowed to be like, I didn't like that. And then we move on. That's how it should be. If I killed everybody that I disagreed with, I'd be on trial for mass murder. You know what I'm saying? So, what are we talking about, man? It's terrible. I don't know what you're saying here. What are your thoughts on it? If it was a clone and the bullet was implanted already, I'm not even gonna, whatever, dude. that just seems crazy. Oh, I see what you're saying. How will it affect comedians? Do you think comedians are in danger? No, I don't think so. That's, listen, we still have, there's a social contract that we all have. We've all signed it and we have it. We're going to follow rules and laws. And the people that don't, they're psychopaths, and justice moves swiftly in those cases. That's what you have to say, That's why I want to know what the motives are. That's why, we need to find out if this is some like JFK level conspiracy, like what's really going on the inside, who knows? Or is this just some nutcase that was just like, I don't like this guy. And then even in that case, we need to slow down and find out what's going on with this person. Like, who is this person and why did they do this? Because that's some sick shit, okay? And that person doesn't represent me or anyone that didn't always agree with that guy. You get what I'm saying? Like, just because if you voted Democrat, it does not mean you side with the psychopath because he also did. That's not political affiliation is not a monolith, okay? Not everyone that votes one way or another means that they agree with everyone. It just doesn't work like that. But the internet would have you believe that's how it is. That's how it's going to be represented. And I'm just going to say to you right now, my message to everyone right now is do not let that happen. Do not get lumped in with a group because of one psychopath or because you disagree with Charlie Kirk. He might not have been your cup of tea. It does not mean you agree with whatever idiot coward did this. And don't let people make you feel like that. I don't want to get into the Ukrainian refugee, but anything like that's terrible, man. What are you supposed to do? Somebody was talking about this on my game stream. I just briefly, since you brought it up, it's like everything's theoretical until it's not. Okay, everybody thinks they're Captain America when they're talking about something after the fact. They'll be like, "Man, if I was on that train, I would have done something." Not if you're with your family. Who you don't know what you would have done in that situation. We'd like to think we would all step up in a situation where someone's in need. It's a shame that people didn't. That's all I'll say. Anyway, guys, I don't know. I came on because I wanted to I didn't want to. This is one of these events, though. Something happens like in the moment. What are you supposed to do? I do my podcast on Wednesdays. It's my little, my pseudo comedy podcast. Sometimes I'm funny, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm just talking like this. And it's just how would I have been able to go on, do an episode of Riffin with Griffin live? I do it live. This is live and not mention that at all. I just thought that would have been doing a disservice to the people that watch me. I was just like, you know what? Let me just do a special bonus episode. Here it is, talking about this. Sorry that I'm rambling. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a news anchor. I'm just living in the moment right now, and I went on live on my platform, and I'm here talking about it. So but see, you're saying that the guy says he was defending mass shootings and he was getting shot. He made his bed. No, I disagree with you completely. He was not defending mass shootings. That's a misrepresentation of what he was saying. This is a very nuanced thing. What you're talking about, what the guy was talking about really is if you defend the Second Amendment, if you think that we have the right to bear arms, okay? And the issue should really be about altering how that language and how we do that. Okay, that's a whole other issue. If you believe that, then you have to be okay with the consequences of people having guns and using them the wrong way. That's what he's saying. He's not defending mass shootings. He's just saying it's like a byproduct of having guns in society. It's like they took it that way. That's how people are parsing it and translating it, but that's not what it is. And he did not make his bed, man. That kind of thought process is the bullshit I'm talking about. He's just, look, it's one of those things, though, where you just go, somebody talks about, he lived and died by what he believed in. So if you're going to go out, that's how you go out. You know what I mean? But I think it's a shame. I think it's terrible for society. We can't have this. Do you understand? You can't be okay with it. You can't be okay with it. Disagree with the guy. We need a louder voice. We need someone on the other side to counteract what this guy's saying. But you cannot be okay with it. It can't be just dismissed as I don't agree with what this guy has to say. So, hey, he got shot because he said bad things. And so, that's what happens. That's a cowardly opinion. Okay? That's a terrible thought process. It really is. Even if you were mad at the things he was saying, it's like that's why he did it. That's why he was so good at being what he was, an instigator. He was firing up young people, making young conservatives, hey, come out, talk. This is what you don't like. Listen, you disagree with LGBT, whatever, that's not your cup of tea. He spoke on it, You don't like it. A lot of people didn't like it. Okay, but that's no reason to take someone's life. Not at all. Not at all. You know what I mean? And I'm not even gonna like listen. I don't even think honestly. Like I'm looking, the people that are listening. I'm also looking at chat at the same time here. Someone said I'm not. What do you say here? Anyway, I see some terrible. I see some terrible things, but that's just what people do. Like what the dumb shit people are saying in chat. That's how he was. He was like that. That's how he was trying to just say stuff just to get people upset. Sometimes he would do that at these rallies, or he's talking to these people coming up, and he would just I didn't like that. I personally didn't like that. In the same way, I don't like some of the stuff that people are saying in this chat. I'm about to remove people forever. I don't want that kind of energy around me. You know what I mean? I just don't want that energy around me. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and remove this person forever. You know what I mean? I just don't like that, So it's fine. But this is what I'm trying to say about the internet. Like that guy, there's some guy in the chat saying terrible things about the guy, and I'm saying, why is that guy doing that? I mean, you have to look at the psychology of that. Here's some comedian doing a live chat. We're talking about this, and people are chatting, and he's like a lonely incel and is like wherever, and he's like, oh, we do this, and they get people all upset. You know what? He has that right to do that. Okay, he did it. All right, he got his piece out. This is my channel. I don't like that around here. See you later. All right? That's how it should work. So if I don't agree with him, should I find him and assassinate him when he's at, the buffet that he takes his mom to because he lives in her basement? Is that fair? Should I shoot him from the parking lot of the Golden Corral that he's probably the assistant manager at to get a discount at the buffet he eats at? Should I do that? No, of course not. So it's like, that's just, you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, in closing here, because I don't want to keep rambling. I can't even believe I talked this long. In closing, I'll say this, all right? It's okay to disagree. Disagree. It's okay that someone has a different thought than you have, especially about some social issues, We have to live in a world where if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, it doesn't mean you're bad, and if you disagree with it, it doesn't mean that they're bad. Like just as an example, if you don't think being gay is right per se, let's just use that. It doesn't mean you're right. It's okay that you feel that way, but you have to respect that other people feel different, and we live in this country under the rules and laws that it's okay. To be hateful to the point of you want to kill someone because they disagree is crazy. Listen, I wish all of you the best. Hug your kids tonight. Call your friends and loved ones and let them know you're thinking about them. Because life is short and you never know what's going to happen. And I also want you to think about your friends that you have, because we all have them. All right, Donald Trump got 80 million votes or whatever it was. You have a Trump supporter friend. We all do. People think they don't, but you do. Hit them up and just be like, hey, man, I love you. You're my guy. You're my girl. Whatever it is that you think, I think you need to be okay with people thinking differently than you, but you could still coexist. We have to coexist. This is why we have this process. This is why we have this democracy where we vote. We go, I don't like what's happening, and we're supposed to get together and vote that person out. That's how it's supposed to work. Let's do it like that, as opposed to what happened today. Today is a tragedy, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, and it should not be tolerated. And I hope they find this person and there is swift justice. Because this cannot be, it can't be okay. No matter what, it can't be okay. All right, y'all. Tomorrow, we will be back with a regular episode of Riffin with Griffin, episode 328. I will not be talking about this at all, unless there's some breaking news. They find a guy or whatever, or a girl, who knows. And then we'll see what happens. But I'll see you guys tomorrow with episode 328 of Riffin with Griffin. Thanks for watching this bonus content, and thoughts and prayers I hate to say that, but that's what the people say to the Kirk family, to his wife and his kids and his mother, his father, and all his friends that know him. This is a tragedy, and I hope that, I hope they can move forward. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, I gotta go. That was the audio people are gone now. I'll see y'all, okay?